Vice produced a Dark Side of the Ring special on David Schultz, and this one's going to be about the slap heard round the world. Starts off with photos and stock footage of Dr. D, David Schultz in the 80s. The story is going to be about the slap heard around the world. The reporter asks him if wrestling's fake, and he slaps the living shit out of him. Here's the thing, this was a big event, but I think the problem they're going to have here is they have these big stories, but they have to get to the story and have enough content for the story to make up the whole episode, so it might be a bit tough to watch this. Also, I wanted to mention, when I first saw David Schultz, I thought they were going to talk about the wrestler, like a real amateur wrestler, who was shot by the owner of the wrestling school. That was a big story, and I thought because it's wrestling, they're going to talk about that. I didn't actually realize it was going to be David Schultz, the professional wrestler. But if you've ever seen the movie Foxcatcher, you can watch it if you want to know more about David Schultz, the shoot wrestler, the amateur wrestler. That's really good too. We go to Tennessee, somewhere in Tennessee, to meet David Schultz. I love this. He's a good old redneck. This is great. He has guns. Hey, he's a patriot. This is really cool. And we see who this guy is, what he is now. I'm not sure what his career was ever since the big slap, because he couldn't get a contract because it was such a big deal. But we see him in a storage unit in Tennessee. Jim Cornette's going to be on this. He's holding a book that says Fake, the story of Dr. David Schultz. That's his book. We're going to get a lot about him here. And I don't know, I guess you're going to hear about Schultz's career, but I think everyone just wants to see the slap. Hulk Hogan, we see him, and this is when he's coming up into business. Schultz tells the story of Hogan was just living out of his van, and Schultz let him live with him, and they had the major feuds, and this, of course, would catch the attention of Vince McMahon. There is a hilarious part. This is a classic Vince McMahon part. David Schultz is being interviewed by Vince McMahon, and David Schultz has a rifle, and Schultz accidentally fires the rifle, and Vince McMahon freaks out. He says, "You stupid idiot." That was hilarious. Jim Stossel is doing a story on wrestling. He wants to expose the business. He was a wrestler in high school, and his story is because he did that, he was mad that people thought professional wrestling on TV was real. So Jim Stossel says once they would do surveys of people who went to the events, and a third of them who were at the event said they thought it was real. Next, we see Eddie Mansfield, and he's unhappy with how people are being treated in the business. That they're being scammed, mainly due to money, and he's bitter because he stops getting bookings. He thinks they should be making more money. You should have health insurance, a 401k, and in his view. Since he's stopped being promoted, he wants to get back at the business, and that's when he decides to do the interview with John Stossel, and he exposes it. John Stossel, I think I was saying Jim before, but they do the expose on ABC, and it becomes a big story. David Schultz and Jim Cornette are ripping on Eddie Mansfield. They're saying he never was anything, and he did damage because he's the one who exposed it. This guy is a fucking idiot, Eddie Mansfield. He makes the comment, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but Abraham Lincoln forgot to free the pro wrestlers. What a fucking moron. John Stossel goes backstage, he interviews the Iron Sheik, and then he interviews David Schultz, and this is where the slap happens. Jim Stossel's interviewing David Schultz, and he asks him, I think this is fake. Schultz replies, you think this is fake? And he clenches up his fist, and instead of punching him, he just hits him with open hand, and he slaps the living shit out of John Stossel. Stossel goes right down. He went down to the ground. He fell on his ass. It was just bang. If you've been rocked before, you've been dropped. He just slaps the living fuck out of this guy. If you hit him with the close fist, he would have been knocked the fuck out. But it was a brutal slap. So what happens is Stossel gets up, and he is an idiot for getting up. And Schultz says, you think it's fake? And he takes his other hand, he slaps him right across the face. And he hit him in the ear both times, but the second slap was way harder than the first one. He went down harder the second one. That one looked way worse than the first one. Because the first one, he hit him hard, but he didn't go back. The second one, he went back, and Jesus Christ. Schultz, he goes to the ring, he wrestles Antonio Inoki, but he has no idea what's happening backstage. It was 20 minutes after he slapped the guy. Schultz goes to Japan, and Vince hopes the controversy will settle down. However, it does not. Stossel wants to sue the WWF for this, and he says his ears are ringing, and he can't take care of his daughter because of it. It's bullshit, but I thought it was great. Stossel sues the company for $280,000, and when you look back at it, if this happened now, they would be sued for far more. So just back in those days, people weren't, as bitchy and didn't sue like a bunch of pussies now that they do. But yeah, you obviously can't slap a reporter. Things get crazier. So Mr. T is brought in by the company, and he's going to be in the main event of the first WrestleMania. And David Schultz is very angry about this. He doesn't know why this big Hollywood actor, who was probably the biggest star in the 80s, one of the biggest stars, is getting all this attention. He's making all this money, more money than the boys. So he's angry about it, and they have a confrontation, I assume, in Los Angeles. So they go forward with the incident. It's a crazy story. Schultz wants to start stuff with T, and he's told by the promoter, by someone who works for the company, an official, if you do something with Mr. T, you're going to be fired. And Schultz says, well, I'm fired or something, and he does get fired. He goes to the ring. He's ready to... he's there, and people are afraid he's going to do something to Mr. T. So Chief Jay Strongbow, he calls the police on Schultz. He says, this guy's dangerous, and he gets arrested, and he gets thrown out. And it's such a crazy story. And a few months later, Schultz's lawyer, he writes that up. He says he's ready to come back. And Vince or someone, they said, he's never working for us again. And this is in 85, right before the first WrestleMania. And he's very angry. He's going to be in the main event. Hulk Hogan, last year on the Steve Austin show, I did listen to the show. I don't remember everything, but I listened to Austin's podcast with Hogan a year ago. And he gave a different story of what happened with the Schultz incident. Hogan says that Schultz just bitch slapped Mr. T, and Schultz is completely denying it. Jesus Christ, that's funny. Oh my God, this guy's nuts. Richard Belzer has Hulk Hogan and Mr. T on his show. Hogan shows him a hold, and this is on his show, and the guy gets choked out when he passes out, and he splits the back of his head open. And Hogan, there's a lawsuit, and Vince pays it, but Schultz is angry. He doesn't know why Hogan's wasn't treated the same way he was. But of course, Hogan's the biggest star in the company at that time. Come on. Schultz leaves the business after he works on the Independence for a year, and he decides he wants to be a bounty hunter. And I don't necessarily know if this is just a show or real, but the way they made it seemed like it was real. As a bounty hunter, he tells this horrible story. It was when he's supposed to be getting this guy who kidnapped 2 innocent girls when they were 14 years old, and they held him in captivity for 3 years. He chained them up, and the only way they can drink trail was from out of they can drink water was from out of the trail. It's absolutely horrendous, and he tells the story of what he's going to do to this guy. He goes to Puerto Rico when he finds the guy in a bar, and these 2 girls are stripping on the stage. He arrests the guy. He chases him down in a bar, and 2 police officers pull their guns on him. He drives them to the ground. They immediately arrest him. They take there was a baby with them. One of the girls was pregnant. There was 2 dogs, and 2 Puerto Rican police officers assist him, and they take this bastard to prison. Vince McMahon is the one who decides to expose the whole business when he tells them it's sports entertainment. It's not wrestling. It's not a sport. So he does this to change the rules the way wrestling's regulated. He tells them it's entertainment, and he's able to get a lot of deregulation because of it. Once wrestling's deregulated, they show Undertaker and Linda McMahon at a press conference with a New Jersey senator, and it was it's crazy. So I believe Schultz now works on a cotton farm. He's he doesn't have money from wrestling now. He has a different life. He's just a farmer. That's what he does now. Farmer from Tennessee. They asked John Stossel if there's one thing you can say to David Schultz right now. What would you say? He says, "Fuck you, David." And then we see David Schultz with a gun. It's a rifle. I'm not sure which kind it is, but he's holding a rifle. He says he does not care what people think of him, and that's how this episode ends. I thought it was a good show. I really enjoyed it. I was a little bit surprised. I thought, is this going to be the Foxcatcher story with the David Schultz who got shot, the amateur wrestler? But this is the slap heard around the world. Brutal slap, and I thought this was a very good episode.